The story begins inside a house on a remote Scottish island near London, where a boy named Jamie is seen watching cartoons with his sisters. Their peaceful evening takes a dark turn when eerie sounds start coming from outside. Jamie's aunt, visibly terrified, hurriedly places her child inside the house and leaves, clearly unsettled by whatever was lurking nearby. The children, now frightened, gather together. Jamie, trying to be brave, heads toward the door, but just then, terrifying creatures burst inside. One by one, the zombies overwhelm the girls while Jamie escapes. Outside, he witnesses the horrifying sight of his mother being seized by the same creatures. The entire area is overrun, forcing Jamie to flee for his life. In desperation, he runs to the village church where his father, the town's priest, is praying. Jamie begs him to run away together, but his father, calm and resigned, tells Jamie that this is the day everyone will find their freedom. He gives Jamie his cross locket for protection and insists that he escape. To buy Jamie time, his father sacrifices himself, bravely facing the creatures while Jamie hides and watches, heartbroken. A while later, Jamie manages to escape from the church, disappearing into the wilderness. The story then shifts to 28 years later. By this time, the world has completely changed. The zombies have spread everywhere, and humanity's survivors are few. We're introduced to a small, isolated island called Lindisfriend, set a little offshore. The people there have built a modest settlement to keep themselves safe from the dangers that roam the mainland. Among them is a young boy named Spike and his father Jamie, now grown and known as one of the village's most skilled hunters. The islanders no longer rely on guns, but have crafted bows and arrows to defend themselves. The hunter's duty is to venture to the nearby shores, gather useful supplies, and make it back safely. Now that Spike has turned 13, Jamie has decided it's time for his son to join him on his first hunting trip. That morning, the father and son share breakfast together, their bond strong and hopeful. From upstairs, they hear the clatter of falling objects. It's Spike's mother, Denny. She suffers from a mysterious illness that leaves her forgetful and in constant pain. Spike doesn't fully understand what's happening to her, but it troubles him. Both Jamie and Spike head upstairs to check on Denny. When Jamie tells her about taking Spike out for his first hunt, Denny becomes upset, refusing to let her son become a hunter. Despite her protest, Jamie and Spike gently calm her down. Denny's deep love for Spike is clear in every word and gesture. Back downstairs, the family's neighbor Chad drops by with a special gift, a bow and arrow crafted for Spike. Chad also promises to stay at the house and look after Denny while Jamie and Spike are away. As they leave, the other villagers gather around, offering their good wishes and cheering for Spike, knowing today marks his first real test. Father and son then head toward the village's outer boundary, a barricade constructed by a tough, no-nonsense woman named Jenny. She lays down the strict rules. Once anyone leaves the perimeter, no one is sent after them. Those who go outside must find their own way back, or not at all. It's a harsh, unforgiving world, and survival is entirely in one's own hands. Spike eventually agrees to follow all the survival rules. He and Jamie continue their journey, and soon they discover a hidden land bridge, much like a natural version of Ram Setu, connecting the island to the shore. This bridge only becomes visible for a short while at dawn and dusk, and remains submerged underwater the rest of the time. During their travel, both Jamie and Spike begin to experience visions, revealing what happened 28 years ago, how zombies once overran the area and turned it into what it is today. Eventually, they reach the shoreline, where they find dry firewood and set up camp. While scouting further ahead, Jamie spots a crawling zombie. In this world, there are generally two types of zombies, runners and crawlers, but Jamie hints at a third, more dangerous kind that he'll explain later. Since crawlers are slower, Jamie instructs Spike to finish it off with a strike to the neck. Spike does so, shooting an arrow and taking it down, but more zombies begin to approach. Jamie and Spike work together to eliminate them one by one. Impressed, Jamie praises his son for holding his own. As they move forward, they spot a group of deer running through the woods and eventually come across a house. They decide to enter, hoping to scavenge supplies, but find something unsettling: a man hanging upside down. We later discover who's responsible for this. The man's body has the name Jimmy carved into it. Jamie tells Spike that there are other groups like theirs, only far more brutal. and that this man was likely infected and punished by his own group. He tells Spike it's up to him to put the man to rest. Although afraid, Spike does it at Jamie's insistence. On the way back, Jamie sees the remains of multiple animals, and Spike notices a deer's severed head hanging from a tree. Jamie explains that this kind of display is not the work of ordinary zombies. It's the doing of an alpha, a massive, dangerous zombie that leads the runners. If the alpha is nearby, it means they must leave immediately. As they attempt to retreat, Spike still wants to prove himself, but Jamie warns him that things are now far too dangerous. Soon enough, they spot the alpha and its entire army. Terrified, Jamie grabs Spike and runs, but the alpha sends its zombies after them. Jamie and Spike begin firing arrows, but Spike keeps missing. They take cover in an abandoned house and rush to the rooftop to hide, barely managing to stay ahead of the incoming horde. Meanwhile, back in their village hall, a photo of Queen Elizabeth is seen. The village women are preparing a celebration for Spike's safe return from his hunting expedition. As evening approaches, Jamie and Spike watch from the rooftop. The alpha is still out there, waiting. Jamie explains that alphas are incredibly intelligent, unlike other infected, and can't be taken down easily with simple arrows due to their size and strength. Spike is frustrated that he couldn't defeat more zombies, but Jamie reassures him. Even the bravest are afraid in the face of such horrors. He tells Spike that once night falls, they'll return to their village through the water route. Later that evening, Spike notices a huge fire burning in the distance. Curious, he asks Jamie what it is. Jamie admits he has no idea. He's never been that far. Spike, however, becomes eager to find out more. That night, Spike falls asleep and begins having vivid, frightening visions of their home being attacked, his parents fading from view. In reality, the house they were resting in begins to collapse, and Jamie quickly pulls him out just in time. They survive and decide to head back to the island since more danger is on its way. Surprisingly, the path they once crossed is clear of zombies, so they attempt to return using the same hidden bridge. The water hasn't risen yet, giving them a small window. As they run across, they notice the alpha watching them from afar. Halfway across, a swarm of crows surrounds them, and the alpha charges in their direction. Jamie and Spike run, reaching the gate, calling for help. Just as the alpha gets close, their allies appear. Arrows are fired, but they have little effect. One flaming arrow finally hits the alpha and brings it down. Jamie and Spike reach the gates, where Jenny inspects them for any signs of infection. Once cleared, they are allowed in and head straight to the village celebration. Jamie proudly tells everyone how his son took down crawling zombies and helped fend off the runners. Everyone is thrilled, but Spike feels uneasy. His arrows had missed earlier, and he doesn't feel like a hero. Still, Jamie lifts his spirits by declaring him a true hunter, earning Spike cheers and celebration from the villagers. Later, Spike, having had his first drink, steps outside feeling queasy. That's when he sees Jamie and Rosie sharing a close moment, laughing, dancing, and comforting each other. His heart sinks. Watching his father seemingly move on from his mother shakes him. Back home, he runs into Chad, who expected Spike to be out celebrating until morning. Spike admits he didn't enjoy the celebration, especially after being called a hero for something he didn't truly accomplish. Chad asks about what they encountered, and Spike recounts the crawlers, runners, and the massive fire they saw. This alarms Chad. He reveals that the fire was likely started by a man named Dr. Carlson, a former colleague from 30 years ago and once a brilliant scientist. Spike says Jamie never mentioned anyone like that and believed there were no doctors left, which meant there was no hope for finding answers about his mother's illness. Chad explains that Jamie likely kept it from Spike to protect him because Carlson has become extremely dangerous. Later, Spike quietly joins his mother Denny and sleeps beside her. At dawn, Denny complains of intense head pain. Spike tries to help, and Jamie soon joins them, exhausted from the night's events. Jamie casually asks where Spike had been, but Spike, still upset, brushes him off. A while later, as Jamie cooks, Spike confronts him about Carlson. Jamie grows angry, realizing Chad told him everything. Jamie reveals that Carlson was once a great doctor, but is now mad. Years ago, as teenagers, they used to go past the shores to hunt. The usual scent of decay never bothered them, until one day they stumbled into Carlson's territory. There, they saw something horrifying. piles of preserved bodies, possibly in the thousands. Coulson was there, trying to control them, one after another. When he noticed them, he called them over. Terrified, they ran and never looked back. No one's dared to return since. And now, Jamie warns, Coulson may still be out there, more dangerous than ever. At one point, Spike confronts Jamie, asking if he really wants Mom to pass away so he can bring Rosie home. And what would Rosie's husband do with Jamie then? Furious at hearing this, Jamie slaps Spike, but immediately regrets it. Spike leaves and goes upstairs to Danny, who's struggling with her condition. He tries to comfort her when Jamie arrives, but Spike warns him to leave the house, threatening him with a knife. Jamie grabs the knife from Spike, loses his temper, and storms out of the house. Spike knew he had to get his mother treated by Kaysen. After a while, Spike returned and asked the guards at the gate to help him extinguish a fire that had broken out in one of the rooms. As the guards rushed to deal with the fire, Spike managed to sneak Danny out of the island. The two eventually reached a shore where Danny realized they were far from the village and feared danger. She started calling out for Jamie and seemed to be losing her memory again. Spike reassured her, saying they were on their way to the doctor and that the water routes were probably blocked by now. Danny agreed to keep going. By nightfall, the two reached an old, abandoned building and decided to rest there. Danny joked around with Spike, telling him how he reminded her of his grandfather, who was a good man too. Spike felt comforted by her words and stayed up to keep watch, but eventually drifted off to sleep. Unbeknownst to him, a crawling zombie approached. By morning, Spike woke to find the zombie lying lifeless nearby. He and Danny were both shaken by the sight. What Spike didn't know was that Danny herself had fought and taken down the zombie during the night, though she had forgotten about it. Meanwhile, a NATO army unit was shown fighting off a swarm of zombies in the same region. As the undead overwhelmed the officers, only 3 soldiers managed to escape to a safer area where they defended themselves at the doorway. But then, an alpha zombie attacked from behind, taking down 2 of them. The lone survivor, a soldier named Eric, ran for his life. Elsewhere, zombies were seen bathing in a river, one of them visibly pregnant. That same day, Spike and Danny were making their way through farmlands when memories of Danny's father came flooding back to her. She remembered how he once brought her through similar fields. Just then, a zombie appeared behind them. Spike quickly handled the threat, but the noise attracted more of them. The two fled and took refuge in an old abandoned restaurant that had been closed for years. The place was filled with thick dust and stale air, making it hard to breathe. As zombies began breaking in, Eric arrived just in time. He opened a window and called out to them, telling them to duck down. Eric then fired a shot into a leaking gas pipe, causing a massive explosion that wiped out all the zombies inside, while Spike and Danny, crouched low, survived the blast. They stepped outside and thanked Eric, who told them it was time to move, since more zombies could be nearby. Eric suggested they leave Danny behind because of her worsening condition, but Spike refused. Eric reluctantly agreed to help them both. Along the way, Eric shared a story about his friend who worked in food delivery. He recalled teasing his friend about wasting his life in that job, only to later realize his own fate wasn't much better after ending up in the military, trapped in this nightmare world. Eric explained that the military had been experimenting in creating smart cities, sending people like him into infected zones to gather intelligence about zombies. That's how he ended up stuck there. As the group took a break, Eric showed Spike a photo of his girlfriend. Spike teased him about her, making a cheeky comment. Eric, annoyed, revealed she had undergone heart surgery, something few people knew. His phone battery died just then, and in frustration, Eric tossed the phone away. As they prepared to leave, Danny, who Eric thought was too weak to walk, suddenly stood and started moving. Eric was surprised, but they kept going. Spike then explained the legend of the Alpha, a human who, under the influence of a modified virus, became extremely powerful, his mind and body transformed. Soon after, they heard distant zombie shrieks. Danny moved ahead into an abandoned train where she encountered the pregnant zombie. Danny assisted her in giving birth to a small baby girl who appeared completely normal. But as the mother zombie moved to harm the newborn, Eric intervened and ended the threat. Eric considered ending the baby's life too, fearing it might be infected. But Spike and Danny stopped him, believing the child deserved a chance. At that moment, the alpha zombie appeared and grabbed Eric from behind, pulling him up into the air. Seconds later, the alpha came back down having decapitated Eric. Spike and Denny managed to escape with the little girl while Alpha arrived at the scene and discovered his fallen wife. Furious, Alpha began chasing after Spike and Denny because he wanted his child back. The two got off a train and fled, with Spike trying to slow Alpha down by shooting arrows at him. But they barely made a difference. Just then, Coulson appeared and fired a morphine-tipped arrow, which finally subdued Alpha. Coulson explained to Spike and Denny how morphine could temporarily calm the infected, and also mentioned how he applied iodine to his body to protect himself from the virus. Spike was stunned when he realized that this stranger was none other than Dr. Coulson, someone who had come to help them. Coulson then showed them the severed head of Eric, which Spike immediately recognized. Coulson guided Spike, Denny, and the little girl to his secluded hideout, across a river that the infected couldn't cross. There, he had built a haunting memorial of bones, a bone temple, where countless skulls of the dead were arranged to honor their memory. He called this place Memento Mori, a shrine to remind them of those lost. Spike spoke to Coulson about Eric, explaining how Eric had saved their lives. To offer peace to Eric's soul, Coulson cleaned the skull, carefully removing the remaining flesh, and handed it to Spike. Spike placed Eric's skull respectfully within the bone temple, ensuring his spirit could rest. Coulson praised Spike's bravery and then asked about Denny and the little girl. Spike explained that although the child was born of the infected, she showed no signs of infection and was entirely human. Coulson was amazed by this miracle of nature and said the baby would need milk soon. But they couldn't keep her there for long. He asked Spike if this was why they'd come to him. Spike told him about the girl's mother. As night fell, Coulson examined Denny's condition. Her body was no longer responding properly, and after carefully checking her, Coulson revealed to them that Denny was suffering from an aggressive cancer that had spread through her body and brain. Denny admitted she'd suspected it for some time but hadn't wanted to frighten Spike. She confessed to being terrified herself. Spike pleaded with Coulson to cure her, but Coulson gently explained that there was no cure. Spike, devastated, couldn't bear the thought of seeing his mother suffer, yet Coulson reasoned with him. Sometimes peace was the kindest mercy. Denny and Coulson quietly decided that it was time for Denny to be freed from her pain, and Coulson gave Spike a morphine dart to calm him when the moment came. Before parting, Denny lovingly told Spike to live a good life and to look after the little girl. Spike promised her, and the two shared a deeply emotional farewell. Later, Denny walked away into the woods with Coulson. There, at a quiet spot, Coulson gently ended her suffering with a poisoned arrow. Spike, sensing what had happened, couldn't stop it. He could only hold on to the memories of his mother. Soon after, Coulson returned and gave Spike Denny's skull, asking him to place it within the bone temple. Spike carried the skull to the highest point of the temple and placed it before the rising sun as a final tribute to his mother's spirit. Not long after, Alpha came searching for his child. Spike and Coulson hid beneath a trapdoor in the basement while Alpha tried but failed to break through. Furious, Alpha managed to tear open the floor and grabbed hold of Coulson, slamming him around. Spike, acting quickly, stabbed Alpha's hand with a morphine syringe, finally putting the beast down. Coulson then told Spike that this place was no longer safe for them and that he and the baby had to return to their village. A while later, Spike carried the baby girl back to the village outskirts. The story then fast forwards to 28 days later. Spike was seen catching fish by a riverbank, reflecting on his decision not to return to the village, but to free his mother from her pain and send a letter to his father explaining everything. He'd left the baby girl, a human child born from the infected, at Jenny's doorstep, naming her Denny after his mother. When Jenny learned about Denny's passing, she was devastated and wandered toward the river, calling out for Spike in anguish. Elsewhere, Spike sensed this pain as he quietly cooked fish by the water's edge. But danger was never far. A lone infected attacked Spike, which he swiftly dispatched, only to realize a massive horde was approaching. Spike fought bravely, but when escape seemed impossible, a voice called out, "It was Jammy, a fierce survivor." Jammy praised Spike's courage and introduced him to his group, all warriors like him, calling themselves Jammy as well. He warned that more infected were on the way and offered Spike a place among them. Spike agreed. Soon, a fierce battle unfolded, with the Jammy squad fearlessly taking down wave after wave of infected. These warriors were even more savage than the creatures they fought. Finally, the leader of the group approached Spike, and in a quiet moment, we saw a cross around his neck, confirming he was the same boy from the film's opening scene. The leader welcomed Spike into their group, and with that, the story came to a close.